AM from Boulder, Colorado said, "Is Deion Sanders the most divisive personality in college football, even more so than Dabo and Jimbo, who you've already touched on?" Let's talk about the word divisive. I had to look divisive up earlier today, and you know what? I've got a laptop in front of me right now, so I'm actually going to look it up even as we're recording. Because here's the thing. I think the word divisive, or the feeling, let me rephrase. The feeling I get when I say the word divisive is different than the definition. The definition of divisive is tending to cause disagreement or hostility between people. When you tell me a person is divisive, I think of them as being a bad person. But in reality, someone being divisive is not necessarily indicative of them being a bad person. So by the letter of the word and its definition, Deion Sanders is a divisive person, but it doesn't make him a bad person. It just, anybody who is a change agent is going to be divisive. When I think of divisive people, I think of like if someone were to walk in a room and say, "I don't like any of the women in here just because they're women." That's a bad person. That's divisive. If someone comes in and says, "I like spaghetti," and people start fighting amongst themselves because half of the room doesn't like spaghetti, not a bad person. They just like spaghetti, or paschetti, as Meemaw would say. Deion walked in and said, "I am going to overhaul a roster, and I'm going to use NIL to do it, and I'm going to use the portal because the rules will let me." AKA the college football version of, "I like spaghetti." And then a bunch of anti-spaghetti folks started yelling back, "You're a terrible person, Deion." Well, he's not a terrible person, but he is a change agent, and he is overturning the college football table. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm just fascinated by it. I am a rare commodity, I guess, much as I am with Jimbo Fisher. I'm just sitting here watching. I actually kind of love Deion. I'm just indifferent on Jimbo. I kind of love Deion. But if it works out, if it doesn't work out, either way, we'll learn something. I think the biggest shock in college football this year would be if Colorado just wins 6 games, which would be a huge overachievement. Everybody's going to look at his model, including some of the people who criticized it, and say, "Uh-oh, let me backspace over my criticism. I may need to go about that." Especially new coaches. Because new coaches have the opportunity to do things that established ones don't. There are some NCAA rules that allow you to do things your first year on the job that subsequently you can't do when it comes to roster management and reconstruction. So new coaches, you get fired today. Let's say you've been critical of Deion. You get fired today. You get a new job 2 years from now. And by that time, Deion's winning big using his approach. You're going to employ some of his approach. There's no doubt about that. You look like a hypocrite in the process, but there's no doubt in my mind that a lot of people who are critical of him now will end up using his approach if it works. That's a tale as old as time. Criticize it, then steal it once it works. So I guess he is divisive. I think divisive, I think we should have another word. It's like turf toe. I think we should have something that sounds worse than turf toe to describe turf toe. Because turf toe sounds minor. Yet if you've ever had turf toe, it's terrible. Well, divisive sounds terrible. But divisive people are not always terrible. Sometimes they're doing something that needs to be done, and some stubborn people are actually the problem in the room. Think about that.